Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our Benny's Bet section for Wednesday, May 11th. It's a pretty big night in MLB DFS. We actually have a split slate today. There are 7 games, I think, starting at 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then tonight we have a 9-game slate. We're going to be talking about the 9-game slate tonight. It's a really nice slate. I do like it. There are multiple places you can go. There's no Coors Field game that's going to suck up a lot of the ownership, so I think it'll be spread out amongst 3 or 4 teams that are in pretty good spots. But let's go through each game. The idea of our Benny's Bat section is we try to look at each pitcher who's slated to be on the mound that night, try to figure out what their weaknesses are, and then which bat's profile to do the best against them. So let's start right at the top with that Detroit against Washington game. Got Max Scherzer on the mound for Washington. And the thing about Max Scherzer in this matchup, I know he hasn't been great this year, but you look at his numbers from 2015 against right-handed batters. He only allowed them to hit 184 with a whip of 0.75. So far in 2016, he's only allowed right-handed batters to hit 164 with a whip of 0.59. Now, you look at this Detroit team, we don't know if Miggy's going to be in the lineup or not. Without them having the DH, since the game is in Washington, we might not have Victor Martinez in there either, which makes this lineup a little bit weaker. And you look from top to bottom, the only left-handed bat they really have is Anthony Ghost. So you're going to be throwing probably 6 to 8 right-handed bats at a guy who's basically been lights out to right-handed bats over the course of his career. So I do think it's a pretty good spot here for Scherzer. Now, the thing I do want to mention is basically what's happened to these Washington pitchers over the course of the last 2 games. You know, Strasburg was a guy a lot of people were using, and then even yesterday, Joe Ross was a very popular punt option. Both of these guys are tough on right-handed batters too. The thing is, with this Detroit team, they have so many guys with power that, 1 or 2 mistakes can get taken yard, and the next thing you know, you're down like both of these guys were. Strasburg made 2 mistakes. Both of them got hit hard for home runs, and he was down 4-0. And pretty much the same thing happened to to Joe Ross yesterday. So I do like Scherzer. I do think this is a pretty good spot for him, even though he hasn't pitched well. The matchup makes sense for him, but at the same point in time, I do think there's a little bit of, one-off home run kind of upside. Nick Castellanos is somebody that I want to mention. He has been just absolutely on fire, swinging a hot bat, doing really well lately. So I think he might be one of those guys that you can look at if you are looking to take somebody against Scherzer and try to get that one-off home run that, he should give up. I don't think he's going to give up a lot of hits. I don't think that, they're going to have a carousel going with guys scoring left and right, but I do think he can make 1 or 2 mistakes and 1 or 2 guys can take him yard. And, that's probably the way I would look if I'm looking at any bats in this Detroit team. On the other side of this game, we got Jordan Zimmerman, who's also been off to a good start this year. Last year, left-handed bats hit 284 against him with a 139 whip, and that's kind of been the way to attack him throughout his career. So on this Washington team, there's 2 guys that obviously stick out right away. Bryce Harper, 467 WOBA, 353 ISO score, just absolutely ridiculous numbers. He has been getting walked a lot lately, so I like him more for cash than tournaments because if they're not going to pitch to him, he really doesn't have much upside now. It's nice that you get 3 or 4 walks out of the guy, but again, that's not worth a lot of fantasy points. Maybe he steals a base, maybe he scores a run or 2, but he's not going to give you the upside that you're looking for a tournament if, they're never going to pitch to him. On the flip side, though, if they keep walking him, Daniel Murphy seems to get up now with guys on base every single time he's up. 367 WOBA since the beginning of 2015, 211 ISO score for him. He's been hitting the ball really well. He's been racking up hits. He's been driving in runs. Daniel Murphy is definitely somebody that I want to have a lot of exposure to today. 4,500 at second base. It's not cheap, but I don't think it's very expensive for a guy who's been hitting as well as he can and is in a pretty good matchup here against Jordan Zimmerman. Next game we can talk about, we got the Kansas City Royals going up against the New York Yankees. Michael Pineda's on the mound for my Yankees, and both right-handed and left-handed bats have been hitting him pretty hard in about the last year and a half. He also has a pretty high home run rate. So guys like Hosmer with a 386 WOBA, 188 ISO against right-handed pitching, left-handed bat, short porch at Yankee Stadium, definitely want to take a look at him. Same thing goes for Eric Gordon. WOBA's only about 345, ISO about 160. But again, he's hitting 5th in the order now with Moustakas out, another big left-handed bat for them there. And then I think you got to look at Lorenzo Cain. Pineda is a guy who can get tagged for home runs. Cain is a, high home run hitter. He hit 3 of them yesterday, so he's obviously seeing the ball pretty well. I think his ownership rate's going to be sky high. I don't really love this spot for him, but if you're looking at any of the guys on the Royals, I think he's definitely somebody that you have to at least include in the conversation. I'm really looking for guys with home run upside. So if you're looking to take some Royals today, probably wouldn't be anywhere near a guy like Alcides Escobar or, Omar Infante or any of the light hitting guys on the team. But the guys that do have the ability to go yard, I think they make a little bit of sense and they're somebody that I would look at. On the other side of this game, Yordano Ventura, he's kind of lost the strike zone in his last couple games here. Huge walk numbers that he's had. Gave up 5 runs in each of the last 2 games. Didn't get past the 4th inning. Been walking 5 or 6 batters, which is just absolutely absurd. You can't do that and expect to win baseball games. Looking at the Yankees, though, I mean, this lineup isn't all that great right now. You got guys like Ellsbury and A-Rod hurt. I do like Brett Gardner, usually up towards the top of that order. I like Brian McCann. He's been hitting out of the 3-hole lately. Carlos Beltran has been hitting pretty well out of the cleanup spot. Teixeira's been pretty horrible. I don't know who they're going to put in the 2-hole, whether it's Starlin Castro or, Aaron Hicks or Didi Gregorius. I mean, I have absolutely no idea. But, like I said, Ventura, if he can't find the strike zone, he's going to be putting guys on. If he makes a mistake or two, when one of these guys takes him deep, it could be a 3-run shot or a grand slam, or they could get a couple guys on and pound out a hit here or there and wind up just having everybody run around the bases. So I don't really like any of the pitching in this game. I think if you're going to take anything in this Kansas City Yankees game, you probably want to look at bats on both sides. Next game we can talk about, we got Milwaukee going up against Miami. Wei-Yin Chen is going to be on the mound for Miami, and right-handed bats have really been the way to go after him the last 2 years, giving up about a 280-ish batting average with a home run every 6th inning. There are a lot of right-handed bats in this Milwaukee team, so I don't really think this is a soft, easy spot for Chen. Remember, Conley, another lefty, pitched against him yesterday, and they knocked him around. I think they wound up finishing with 10 runs. I know not all of them were on Conley, but Conley had been pitching pretty well, and it was a rough start for him. So 2 guys that really kind of stand out for me. Obviously, Ryan Braun against left-handed pitching, somebody we definitely have to talk about. 418 WOBA, 261 ISO score, and he's already 3 for 6 lifetime against Wei-Yin Chen. So he's got a couple hits off him. The profile matches up with what we've seen in limited at-bats. So I think Braun's in a good spot, would be somebody that I'd look at here, even though it's not a great hitter's ballpark. The other guy that I like is Jonathan Villar, who was awesome yesterday. This guy just keeps racking up hits, and he puts up fantasy points in a lot of ways. He gets you some RBIs. He'll score some runs. He can steal a base for you. Really like Villar here as well. 347 WOBA, 168 ISO. Hits very well against left-handed pitching, as a cheap shortstop option, because I think he's only like 31 or 3,200, which seems a little cheap to me, even though it is a bad hitter's ballpark. Really like Jonathan Villar as a cheap salary-saving kind of guy. He's going to be on a lot of my rosters today as well. On the other side of this game, we got Chase Anderson pitching. And Chase Anderson's actually a reverse splits guy, so right-handed bats have a higher average and more power against them. So I think that means that guys like Giancarlo Stanton and Marcell Ozuna are definitely in play. Stanton, 378 WOBA, 298 ISO score, 4 of 11 lifetime against Chase Anderson with the home run. And Ozuna is actually 5 for 12 lifetime. He has the best numbers already against Anderson. So as you can see, not only does he profile as someone who struggles with righties, but the righties on this Marlins team have already hit him. So I think that makes a lot of sense here. A.T. Realmuto, another righty, the catcher who we talk about, goes under-owned all the time, but has just been, consistently hitting. He's 2 for 3 lifetime against Chase Anderson as well. So like I said, all these righties have hit him pretty well. If you are looking for, if you are looking for some of the lefties that you can roll out too, if Dietrich's back on top of the lineup, I don't think he makes for a bad play. Justin Bohr is very cheap, so he's another guy that you can look for that has some upside. I like this Marlins team. I think you can stack them up here today. I mean, I didn't even mention Christian Yelich, who might be the hottest hitter on, on this team right now. I think you can stack up this Marlins team. I think the problem you're going to have is figuring out which 5 guys you want to stack up with them. But I could see the Marlins putting up I could see Milwaukee putting up a pretty nice score today against the Marlins. The Marlins putting up a pretty nice score today against Milwaukee. Sorry about that. So next game we can talk about, we got Oakland going up against Boston, and Rick Porcello's on the mound, and he's been lights out to start the year. 295 ERA, .96 WHIP, 41 strikeouts in 39 innings. So this is about as good as I've seen him pitch in a while. Left-handed bats are usually the way you want to go after them, and a couple of these guys in Oakland do have some decent numbers against them. Josh Reddick is the best bat that you want to look at. 3-hole hitter for Oakland, 365 WOBA, 189 ISO. He is 3 for 8 lifetime with a home run against Porcello already. So again, a guy who profiles well and has backed it up with his play so far. Another guy we can always look at, Stephen Vogt, left-handed bat catcher against the right-handed pitcher. 343 WOBA, 200 ISO score for him. So he's probably somebody else who's in play. I'm not really looking to pick on Porcello because he's been pretty good, but those are two guys that I wouldn't mind having some exposure to if, the price was right and I really needed it. On the other side of this game, I think you're going to see the Red Sox stack be very popular. They pounded out 14 and 13 runs in the last 2 games, and they're going up against Eric Surkamp, who may be one of the we have in Major League Baseball right now. Right-handed bats have a higher average and more home runs against them. You look at guys like Xander Bogaerts, 396 WOBA, 117 ISO, hits left-handed pitching very well. Guys like Mookie Betts, guys like Dustin Pedroia, even Hanley Ramirez, who's been flashing his power lately. I like all of these guys here. I think all of them could be in play. Even guys like David Ortiz and Travis Shaw, if they get in a game late in the game when the left-hander comes out, because I think they're going to chase Surkamp by the 4th or 5th inning anyway. So you're probably going to get 3 or 4 innings and maybe 2 at-bats out of these guys against a right-handed relief pitcher as well. So I don't even hate if you want to include an Ortiz or a Shaw in that stack with you. Next game we can talk about, we got Philly going up against Atlanta. Let's see, we got Jared Eichhoff on the mound for the Phillies, and he's actually been pretty good this year. He's got high K numbers, kind of limiting the damage here. Left-handed bats do tend to do a little better against him, but he's been very tough on right-handed bats, so I'm not looking at any of them. There are 3 lefties basically on Atlanta. You got Marquez, who's okay. You got A.J. Przinsky, who's a viable punt option at catcher if you wanted to, although I don't really like the spot for them today. And then you got Freddie Freeman, who's the one guy who is actually a solid bat that you have to worry about. Freeman has a 378 WOBA, 200 ISO score against right-handed pitching, so if you're not on Eichhoff today, although I do like Eichhoff and I am on Eichhoff a little bit, especially in tournaments because of strikeout upside. If you're not on him today, I think Freeman makes a nice solid tournament play. I think a lot of people are going to be on Eichhoff, which is probably going to leave Freeman pretty low owned. And again, this guy's a left-handed bat going up against a right-handed pitcher. He always has a little bit of upside in that situation. On the other side of this game, and I also really like Eichhoff, just to give you guys a quick rundown, Atlanta's been really bad against right-handed pitching this year, striking out at a decent clip, but their batting average is incredibly low. The runs scored is incredibly low. So, I do think Eichhoff is someone we can look at here as an SP2 on a site like DraftKings. The other side of this game, we got Jhoulys Chacin. Left-handed bats do better against him. I don't really love this Phillies offense. I don't think they have the capability to put up huge numbers, but there are a couple guys who I think are interesting. Eldobel Herrera is probably my favorite play. 349 WOBA, 130 ISO. He's been leading off or hitting, in the top 2 spots in that Phillies order. Just a consistent hitter. He gets on base consistently. He does have a little bit of speed, can steal a base for you, can score some runs as well. I've never seen, well, I shouldn't say never, but I haven't seen this Phillies team exploding for like 7, 8, 9, 10 runs in a game. They're winning games early on with good pitching and, winning the games 3-2 or 4-1 or, 5-2, something in there. And even the 5-2 is a little bit of an outlier for what they do. So, again, I can't really take a lot of bats here because I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game. But I do like Eichhoff. I do think he's in a pretty good spot. And I don't like Chacin. I don't think he's a very good pitcher at all. I just don't know how much there is to go up and attack him. Next game we can talk about, Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. Juan Nicasio has actually been pretty good to start the year. The problem is, he does tend to walk people. He can lose control sometimes and put a few guys on. Left-handed bats have usually been the way you want to go after him. So a guy like Joey Votto makes sense. 408 WOBA, 224 ISO, just about as solid professional of a hitter as you can have out there. Not afraid to take a walk if they decide to pitch around them. I think Votto's somebody that I definitely want to have some exposure to. I also wouldn't mind having a little bit of exposure to Billy Hamilton today. And hear me out here, guys. When Billy Hamilton's hitting in the 2-hole, he's going to get that extra at-bat or 2, which is nice. He does have the stolen base upside. Anytime this guy gets on, he's looking to steal. So if you can get him on and you get the stolen base and you get a run scored, that's at least like 9 to 10 fantasy points right there. It's kind of the same theory we talked about last year with Cesar Hernandez. When he gets on base, they always have him looking to steal. If he steals and somebody gets a hit, he can score from second on a single that gets through the infield. And next thing you know, you got 10 points out of a guy who's like, a little above 3x, and you got 3x value out of him in one at-bat. We talked about Billy Hamilton the other day, and he went out there and stole second and third and scored a run. Wound up with 18 points in the first at bat that he was out there on the field. So, you can't really ask for more. That's exactly what we want. So I think, Billy Hamilton could be another viable guy. And then the last guy is Jay Bruce. It's a boomer bust home run kind of type. But like we said, Nicasio is somebody who can give up hits to left-handed bats. That's where he usually struggles. And these are basically the three left-handed bats on Cincinnati that you would want to take against anybody. On the other side of this game, we got Alfredo Simon. Basically, everybody's been hitting him this year. Righties, lefties, my kids. I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. He's been giving up hits, giving up runs to everybody out there. So I think Pittsburgh is definitely a viable stack. I think all these guys are in play. Andrew McCutchen, Sterling Marte, John Jaso, Gregory Polanco, Cervelli, even if you want to throw him in there. One guy who I did want to single out is Jung Ho Kang, who just came back. He's been out on injury, but this guy was actually the second best hitter on this Pirates team behind Andrew McCutchen based on the numbers last year. He did hit right-handed pitching pretty well. It was around a 360, and I think his ISO was a little bit below 200. Now, for those of you who don't know, this guy was basically, I don't know if he won the Triple Crown, but he was very close to being the Triple Crown winner in the Korean League, meaning at the highest batting average, the most home runs, the most RBIs. He was basically like the superstar shortstop of Asia and came over to play for the Pittsburgh Pirates last season, was kind of solid, injured to start this year, but this guy has a ton of baseball talent. I mean, he hits the ball hard. He always makes contact. He rarely strikes out. You got a lot of upside here with a guy like Kang, and I think that people are off him because they didn't realize, or they don't even realize that he's back. Usually it takes a player a couple games to get back up to full speed, but if I'm going to get him pretty cheap in a really good matchup against a horrible pitcher, I think it is something that I can look at. And remember, this game is in Cincinnati too, so any of these guys that have home run upside, the Great American Ballpark is the park that yielded the most home runs in the league over the course of the last 2 seasons. So I do think that there's going to be some fireworks in this game, and I think they're definitely going to be coming from the bats in that Pittsburgh lineup. Next game we can talk about, we got San Diego at the Chicago Cubs. John Lackey's going up there, and it's actually a great spot for him. But I am a little concerned because he did throw 111 pitches his last time out. I don't think the San Diego team is very good against right-handed pitching, so I do think that Lackey could be in a pretty solid spot here today. But again, like I said, just be a little bit careful. Threw 111 pitches, which is easily his season high. Hadn't thrown over 100 in any game before that. He is a guy that can eat up innings and throw a lot of pitches, but I felt like he wasn't 100% right going into even that last start that he had. So 111 pitches to me kind of makes me think like they're either going to take it easy and maybe only go 6 with him today, or that maybe he's just, not going to pitch well and that his arm could be a little tired and it could be a problem. So just keep that in mind. I'm not really looking at any San Diego bats right now, but, maybe it would be like a contrarian stack for a tournament to throw one in there and hope that, that 111 pitch outing is going to hurt Lackey. On the other side of this game, we got Drew Pomerantz, the lefty. And, I mean, he's been good. He's a high K guy. Somebody who's really tough on left-handed bats. Right-handed bats aren't all that great against him either. His price is a little expensive going up against a team that has a run differential of plus 103 to this point in the season. Ben Zobrist, 405 WOBA, 205 ISO, guys like Fowler, Bryant, even Rizzo in a lefty-on-lefty matchup, guys like Baez and Russell, the righties towards the bottom of the order. I just really like the Chicago Cubs team. I think they're a viable stack every day. It's not a game where I'm looking to pick and choose guys to go up against Pomerantz. So for the most part, it would be tournament only, and I'd probably stack up the entire team, or I probably won't be using them because there's not a lot of guys in the Chicago team that stand out to me as one-offs that I would be adding into a stack that I was putting together, to fill in the holes. Next game we can talk about, St. Louis Cardinals going up against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Jaime Garcia on the mound for the Cardinals, and he's been very good. Low batting average to both right and left-handed batters. Only guy that stands out, the only good hitter they really have on this Angels team is Mike Trout. 421 WOBA, 258 ISO. Just walk him, please, Garcia. Don't try to get cute. Just pitch around Trout and, win the game that way. That's probably the way you want to go. On the other side of this game, we got Matt Shoemaker. Let's see. In the last 2 games, right-handed and left-handed bats have both been teeing off on him. His last 2 starts, 2.1 innings, 7 earned runs. and 3 innings, 7 earned runs. Lots of home runs that he's been giving up, which has always been a problem for him. I like all of these St. Louis bats. I like guys like Piscotty. I like guys like Carpenter. I like guys like Griachuk. Matt Holliday has been the DH since they're playing in the American League Park. You got Molina, you got Hazelbaker, you got Moss or Adams. I mean, whoever happens to be up there in this lineup today, I think they're in a good spot against Shoemaker. Shoemaker actually got demoted because he was getting lit up so much, but because of the injuries that they have and everything falling apart on that staff, here he is back up in the majors making another start. So somebody said to me yesterday, you can't make money taking Shoemaker. And I said, you're right. You can't make money taking a cheap guy like Shoemaker, but you can sure make money taking bats against this guy. And we've seen it time and time again. And I think that this is going to be another one. So St. Louis, definitely a stack that I'm looking at. Definitely, a team that I want to have some exposure to today. And then the last game is basically just a pitching duel. You got the New York Mets going up against the LA Dodgers. Noah Syndergaard against Kenta Maeda. Syndergaard averaging about a 200 batting average to right-handed bats, about a 225, 230 batting average to left-handed bats. So, I mean, if you're going to attack them, you probably want to go with the lefties, but I'm not really looking to take a lot of Dodgers here. Do you take a Seager? Do you take a Adrian Gonzalez? Do you take a Jock Peterson? I mean, to me, the answer to all those questions is kind of no. Just is going to be staying completely away from Dodgers bats today. And then on the other side, you got Kenta Maeda, tough on right and left-handed bats. Guys like Conforto, guys like Granderson, guys like Duda, these are the left-handed bats that you really want to take a look at. But again, Maeda's been another guy who's been lights out at the beginning of the year. So I think the way to play this game is just not to use any of the bats at all in this one is probably the best way to go. So that's going to wrap it up for our 9-game look at the games on the slate today. Thank you guys for joining us here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.